Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When a flower blossoms, it gives off a fragrance. For the fragrance to occur in the flower has to open up. Now, in a tree, there are certain trees that also have blossoms. Sometimes in the winter, it's extremely cold, and then prior to spring, you may have a warm spot and then a frost. And the frost kills the blossoms. And the blossoms can't open because they were killed by the frost. But that doesn't stop the tree from doing what it had always done. It doesn't stop the tree from getting water through its roots and getting strength through fertilizer through its roots and doing all the things it needs to do to maintain itself. And then the next season, when the blossoms come out, the fragrance within the blossoms wafts in the air and comes out to everybody. The fragrance returns. But even when the fragrance is not there, the tree does what it has to do to maintain life. Fragrance comes and goes, but the life of the tree must be maintained. And eventually, the blossom has to open. We all have hearts, and our hearts are where Allah resides. And for truth to enter into us, for truth to come out from us, for us to be involved in truth, our hearts have to open. And how do we come to the point where our hearts open? How do we come to the point where that fragrance of Allah comes out from us? Well, this is all the process of the interaction with the guru or the sheikh or the mentor or the teacher. The teacher comes into this world with a distinct purpose, and that purpose is to give to humanity. But to give what to humanity? To give reality to humanity, to give truth to humanity, to give understanding to humanity, to bring about the knowledge of reality to humanity so that man can know the difference between illusion and what's real. Now, when devotees first come to a teacher, they are amassed in ignorance. They don't know much. And they have to be fed in the same way that a baby is fed. So, in essence, the sheikh, the guru, breastfeeds his children. He gives unto them slowly what it is that they need. He gives unto them slowly what it is that is going to change them and to bring them from ignorance into knowledge, to bring them from not understanding truth and believing the lies of the world to the point where they have overcome their attachment to illusion and are able to grasp and find the truth and are able to grasp what Allah is and to love Allah. Now, the Guru gives in two ways. He satisfies your worldly needs and he satisfies your spiritual needs. So he shows you the way towards Allah, but he also shows you how to live appropriately within the world so that you don't violate the laws of the world. And he gives equally to all. The Guru's gifts are common to humanity. They're not meant for one person in particular. They're given in an equal fashion, in the way that the rain falls. When the rain falls, it falls for everybody. And it's up to each individual to take what they can from the rain. And the rain never takes the position that it's being wasted. It just is there to give. Likewise, the sheikh never takes the position that what he's being given is wasted. He's there to give. And it's up to the disciples, the students, to take. Now, the Guru, the sheikh, gives with equality. He gives in a commonality. He gives in a unified way. In order for the students to be able to get what he gives, they have to understand how to take. If a student approaches the sheikh with arrogance and with doubt and wants to take what he has to give with arrogance and doubt, he's not going to be able to get what is being given because his arrogance and his doubt create veils. They create separations between him and the sheikh. So the truth can't come to him, not because of what the sheikh has done, not because of the way the sheikh gives, but because of their own barriers that they've placed between themselves and that which is given. You cannot approach a sheikh with arrogance. You cannot approach a sheikh with doubt. You cannot approach a sheikh with jealousy. In order to be able to get the treasure of unity, the treasures of Allah's qualities, you have to approach in a state where there is no arrogance, where there is no jealousy, where there is no doubt, where there is no grasping for more, where you are satisfied with what's being given. One has to understand this to truly be able to follow the path of truth. To enter into the path of truth, you have to come into it with love and with compassion. And your love has to be an inclusive, tender, unified love. It can't be the kind of love that separates who love is given to and who that love interacts with. We have to develop a unified love, a love that loves all mankind, that gives towards all mankind. Allah gives his love to all in common. He doesn't pick anyone as a favorite. Now, religions will tell you the opposite of that. They will tell you that Allah draws distinctions between religions, that Allah draws distinctions between people, and that there are separations among mankind as to whom that love is available to and whom that love is not available to. What I saw when I was in the presence of the Sheikh was that his love was given unconditionally to whoever entered into his space, to whoever came before him. He did not differentiate as to whom he gave his love to. He gave, and he gave freely to all in an equal way. And if we, the students, were unable to receive that love in an equal way, or were somehow plagued by jealousy, plagued by arrogance, plagued by differences, then we weren't able to understand the nature of that love, and we weren't able to get that love in the way that it was given. We somehow transformed it because of our nature, not because of his nature. His nature was to constantly give. His nature was to give equally. His nature was to love all. And we, in order to understand truth, had to develop that same nature, or else we didn't get the treasure that he was offering. If we could not find an unconditional nature in ourselves, a unified nature in ourselves, a non-differentiated nature in ourselves, then we could never accept non-differentiated love. We could never accept unconditional love. We could never accept common love. What happened to some people is, unless they felt they were somehow signaled out specially, they couldn't accept what was going on. They needed that the Sheikh somehow treated them differently. But this is not the Sheikh's way. The Sheikh's way is to give in common and to treat all equally. And this is the lesson of unity. This is the lesson of understanding the true nature of existence as opposed to the false understandings, the understandings that come from illusion. But there are those who would rather stay in the state of illusion and let their mind control what it is they think they need, as opposed to releasing themselves so that the truth can come to them. Now, when I say releasing themselves, I mean releasing themselves to all of the preferences they have about themselves and not about everybody else. They wish to hold on to their own arrogance, to their own doubt, to their own jealousy, to their own differences, to their own differentiations, to their own separations, to their own religions, to their own castes, to their own way of seeing things. And what happens if they insist on seeing things this way, then the truth doesn't come to them. And what happens is, as opposed to going towards the transcendent qualities of Allah as given by the Sheikh, they end up accepting the qualities that come from Satan, falsehood, treachery, evil, because they cannot bring themselves to the one-hearted, open acceptance of all. Now, this is key to our moving forward on the path. This is key to our transcendence on the path. We have to be able to be inclusive. We have to be able to accept everyone else. We have to act like the Sheikh acts. We have to take from the Sheikh in the way the Sheikh gives to us. So if the Sheikh gives to us with kindness, we have to accept with kindness. If the Sheikh gives to us with unity, we have to accept with unity. If the Sheikh gives to us without differences, we have to accept without differences. And we need to be steadfast in the way we approach the Sheikh. We must do what he expects of us to do, and we must continue to do it without turning away from our duty. There was once a young disciple, and he came to the Sheikh, and the Sheikh accepted him. And he said to him, "Go gather wood and bring it to the kitchen, and this is your duty." So he began every morning, he would go to the forest, he would gather wood, and he would bring it to the kitchen until it was dusk, and then he would come and stay at the dargah. And this went on, and he never noticed how long it had been going on. Years passed, and one day he was bringing a load of wood back to the dargah, the place where they lived, and a piece of wood caught in his beard, and the beard fell, and the wood fell to the ground, and he saw his beard, and he saw that it was white, and he realized he had been carrying wood for so many years. He had now become an old man, and he began to think, my God, I came here with all these ideas of learning wisdom and understanding consciousness and transcending my own life, and yet all I've done is carry wood and grow old. And he began to be sorrowful. And as he was thinking about his sorrow because of the passage of time and nothing occurring, he began to shed a tear. And as the tear was flowing down his face, the Sheikh ran out of the house and caught the tear before it left his face. And he said, you know, if a tear from somebody like you would hit the ground, there would be a famine in this entire area for years. Do you understand the nature of the devotion that you have given to me and to Allah all of these years? Do you understand how you have been steadfast and you've never left what you were supposed to do? People like you are very rare, and we are thankful for the fact that people like you exist. And he touched his forehead, and all of a sudden, all of the wisdom that he had been seeking was there. All of the consciousness that he had been seeking was there. All of the understanding that he had been seeking was there. So as we travel through this path, as we move forward, whether we obtain what it is that we think we are seeking, or whether we are just doing our duty as we are expected to do, we should not give it thought. We should not have expectations of where we should be. We should learn how to do what needs to be done and to accept what we get when we get it. We are not capable of fully understanding the total progress that we make. That is with Allah, and that is with the Sheikh. And as time goes by, what is to be revealed to us will be revealed to us. And what is to be kept hidden from us will be kept hidden from us. But we can't allow that to change our devotion, to change our unity, to change our love, to change the way we are. We must stay open-hearted. We must stay in a state of loving kindness. We must stay in a state where our hearts are tender, as the Sheikh's heart is tender. We must stay in a state where we are open to all men who come in our way, where we are giving to all those who come in our way, who in a state where we don't resent, in a state where we don't have arrogance, in a state where we don't have jealousy, in a state where we begin to compare. This one has this and this one has that, and I don't have enough. When thoughts begin to go in those directions, that's when man loses his way and he becomes something other than a devotee. He becomes something other than a pilgrim. He becomes a person who demands certain things within the path, and you can't demand. You can only wait to be given. And this is an important lesson to learn. You can't tell Allah what to do and when to do it. You can't tell the Sheikh what to do and what to do it. You can't tell them about your expectations. They fulfill what it is that you need when you need it. They give you what it is that you need when you need it. And they understand what it is that you need. We are incapable of understanding what we truly need because we come from ignorance. And the wisdom that we get is the grace that is given to us by the Sheikh and by Allah. But for us to obtain grace, we must be graceful towards the Sheikh and towards Allah. For us to obtain favor, we must show favor towards the Sheikh and towards Allah. For us to obtain love, we must show love towards the Sheikh and towards Allah. It is never the fault of Allah. It is never the fault of the Sheikh. It is, if we stray, always our fault for not maintaining the appropriate qualities that are necessary in order to move forward in this path. And those qualities require a certain tenderness of heart that we give out not only towards the Sheikh and towards Allah, but towards everyone that we meet. We must develop a tenderness towards humanity because there is a unity in humanity, and we must learn how to treat all others as ourselves. Now, there are certain relationships that we are given that help us develop this tenderness. Marriage is one of those relationships. Within a marriage, there has to be tenderness between the husband and wife. There must be acceptance between the husband and wife. There must be no cruelty between the husband and wife. There must be no resentment between the husband and wife. There must be no arrogance between the husband and wife. They must always be ready to cede toward the other one, to give in to the other one, to maintain that tender, loving, open-hearted relationship wherein the fragrance of the blossom of the heart wafts through the home on a constant basis. This same relationship develops between the student and the sheikh. It's almost like a marriage. There is nothing that is hidden one from the other. There is nothing that is kept out of view one from the other. The sheikh knows all your secrets. The sheikh knows all that you do and all that you say. Allah knows all that you do and all that you say. We have to understand in the following way. Beloved Lord, you've seen and heard all that we hide. Accept our plea, set the guilty free. We have to lay ourselves down before our Creator with all our faults, admit all our faults, and ask Him to forgive all our faults, and then learn to move on from those faults and not repeat them again. When we are in a state of ignorance, we don't know what we're doing. But when we leave that state of ignorance, to repeat what we've done when we were in ignorance is a fault. So we have to take ourselves and move ourselves out of ignorance. But as we move ourselves out of ignorance, we have to understand that the life that we led while we were in ignorance is not a life that we are allowed to live any longer. We can't act in the same way in the life of truth as we acted in the life of ignorance, because if we do, we will lose all that we've gained and we will revert to ignorance. We will revert to the qualities of arrogance and doubt and falsehood and treachery because we've lost our path. So we have to stay close to truth, and we have to understand truth, and we have to understand the true qualities of our teacher. There was once a young man who came from a father who was very advanced in being. And the father told him to go make a teacher out of a king whose name was Janaka. And he went to the king's palace and he entered into the palace. They let him in. They knew who he was. They were expecting him. And he saw the king dressed in all kinds of refinement and sitting on a throne of emerald and diamonds. And he said to himself, a man who has this much wealth and is this attached to the world, I don't need to be my sheikh. And he turned around and walked out of the palace. The king, who was very advanced spiritually, knew what he was thinking and sent 2 messengers to get him. They brought him back before the king and sat him down. And the king began to discourse about God. And he talked about God in a very concentrated, exalted manner, and spoke and spoke and spoke. And he spoke for 4 hours. After 4 hours, 2 of the people who worked for the king came running into the palace and said to the king, "The kingdom is burning. There's a fire in the kingdom. You must stop what you're doing and help us put it out." And he said, "I'm busy. I'm talking about God. Go take care of it yourself." So they left, and he continued to talk about God to this young man. Another 2 hours passed, and the two messengers came back in and said, "The fire is now at the palace grounds. You have to do something about it." And the king said, "I'm busy. I'm talking about God. Go take care of it yourself." Another hour passed, and the two messengers came running back in again and said, "The fire is about to envelop your throne room and is very close to coming to get you." And he said, "I'm busy. Take care of it as best you can. Save yourself." When the boy heard all this, he looked up, saw the fire, and he looked down and saw some holy books that were sitting next to the king. And he ran over to the king and took the holy books to save them and began to run out away from the fire. And the king said to him, "You had these thoughts that I couldn't be truthful to our Lord because of my throne and because of my finery. Yet we were talking about the majesty of our Lord, and you stopped in order to save some books? Don't you understand the nature of truth?" And then he took his hand and waved it, and all the fires went out. We can never imagine that our sheikh is less than the utmost of purity, the utmost of sanctity, and the utmost of what is appropriate. We must understand the nature of the sheikh and the nature of what it is that he does for us and the nature of his closeness to Allah. We must also understand that sheikhs come in many different ways. Some come in tattered clothes, some come without funds and without attachment to anything, and some come as kings of kingdoms and are very wealthy. But it's not about what they have, it's about the attachment to what they have. Can they give everything up in an instant? And Janaka, the king, was ready to give everything up in an instant for truth. We have to be that way. We have to set a priority as to what's important and life and what is not important. And we have to understand that the most important thing in this existence is our relationship with our Creator and our path towards our Creator. And in understanding that, we have to understand that we go to our Creator through our relationship with the Sheikh. And we have to understand that our relationship with the Sheikh has to be pure. It has to be without jealousy. It has to be without arrogance. It has to be without differences. It has to be without trying to push others away so that we have the forefront of his attention. What he gives is common to all, and we must accept this in a way that that is understood. And we must take what he gives with that understanding that there are no differences between ourselves and the other disciples, that there are no differences between ourselves and the rest of humanity, that all religions that create separations aren't being accurate as to the will and intent of Allah, that all differences that we have from each other are differences that we have with God, that we must somehow understand the nature of unity, find that nature, and resolve ourselves into that nature and accept unity as our guideline and bring ourselves to our Sheikh with tender open-heartedness. It is within the heart that Allah resides. He has no form, but he is within the heart, and he blossoms within us in the way a bloom blossoms. And that blossoming within us is in our actions and in the things that we do that truly represent him. So when we take on his qualities and his qualities emerge from us in our actions, that's when we have truly become the ones who are his sons on earth, the ones who are his representatives on earth. So we ask Allah through our Sheikh and through Allah that we be given those qualities of Allah so that they become our qualities, and so that we understand the true treasure of existence, which is those qualities and being able to absorb and give out those qualities. It is within this light that we need to exist. It was within this light that we must understand our existence. It is within this light that we will find our truth and we will find our way towards reality. May it become easy for all of us to walk this path. May it become easy for all of us to find this truth. May light enter into us. May the qualities of Allah enter into us. May our heart be filled with his effulgence, and may we understand reality and be rid of illusion. May reality be the way that we live, and may reality be the way that we are. Ameen, Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.